Hi, welcome everybody to the Southwest Village Council meeting. Today is Monday, September 23rd, 2024. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. This officer will take the roll.
Porter.
Here.
Bell.
Here.
Krueger.
Here.
Canton.
Here.
Kavanaugh. Here. Zalicki.
Here. All right, we have minutes of the September 9th regular council meeting. Any changes or adjustments to the minutes from that day?
Move to approve.
Move
Second.
to approve. Second, moved by Porter, second by Kavanaugh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The minutes of the September 16th special council meeting minutes. Any changes or corrections to those minutes?
Move to approve.
Moved by Porter, seconded by Canton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are passed. We have visitors. You're limited to 5 minutes. The instructions on how to speak to us are in the back of the agenda. I think you're all familiar with it. Kelly, you're first. Give us name and address again.
Kelly Estes, 26 Emerald Court. Nice to see you all again. I was here last month to introduce the formation of the Mayor's Committee for Safe Bicycle and Pedestrian Transport and was seeking feedback. And I heard that there was not quite a lot of support. So I'm just here to hear some feedback and response, and if there's any suggestions that you all have, I think we could do differently, or plans for the future.
I guess my question is, why is there impression there's no support? A little.
That is what I was told. Is there some new information?
To make, the issue boils down to an ad hoc committee. Do we make this an ad hoc committee where it's under the thumb of the village, or do we just let this committee do their thing without village involvement? I'm in favor of village involvement. But what we're running into is this committee would like to use the newsletter to announce their meetings, and they have to be an ad hoc committee. So that, to announce their meetings, use the facility, stuff like that. We could make them an ad hoc committee. I wasn't ready yet to make them an ad hoc committee because I wanted to see how it's going. We've had 2 meetings and see what the response is, if the community is really interested. I think it's a very necessary committee because we have some issues coming up. But I wasn't ready to bring it forward. So that's where we stand. I think we'll see, as we said before, we'll see if it's going to be a good committee, which I think it is. And then I would make it an ad hoc committee, similar to what we call the park committee, where there's certain things we do to formalize the relationship.
Isn't the park committee a formal committee?
It is.
In the village?
Can we get clarification from the solicitor to define ad hoc?
So the way that it's, actual Latin phrase, I'm not sure you have to actually look that up. But for ad hoc, the way that, there are certain standing committees, right, of council, and that includes building, finance, HR, properties, public utilities, safety, and streets. Park committee is actually separate ordinance and everything. It's not really considered a standing committee of council because it has other members on there that are appointed for certain terms. Different. And if I'm not mistaken, Ruth, you are the park committee chair. You do not share that though with another council member. It's not like there's 2 council members on the park committee, correct?
No, there is. Jerry.
Well,
No.
He's not an actual member that's appointed.
So he's a
under-
representative?
And
No,
you're
he just
talking church. I
attends.
think he just attends, to be honest.
Okay, I'm confused because he
Here.
was chair when I started and I attended. and
Sure.
needed to attend.
So with the ad hoc though, certainly there can be other committees. And when I say that, I'm talking about just like HR, finance. Ad hoc is usually for a specific purpose, for a limited amount of time, duration. And usually ends when that purpose has been completed or met, or the duration is over or expires.
I believe at the federal level, particular subject matter, that would be a select committee.
Okay.
For federal,
No, Jerry, we're a very small municipality. We're not.
Okay, so if this were to become an ad hoc committee, then would a member of council then chair that committee?
Does not have to, so.
Does not have to.
Correct. So it's in section 220.05 of the codified ordinances, and it just is worded committees. It has an appointment of committees, and these are the standing committees, but then it does go on to, and those are the ones I just mentioned, the ones that you guys are all part of, building, finance, HR, okay. Then the separate is the mayor, with council's approval, or council may appoint a special or ad hoc committee as are deemed necessary, provided that matters referred to or pending before a standing committee may not, without consent of its members, be referred to or considered by a special committee. So in other words, street committee, you guys are charged with doing X, Y, and Z with respect to the street department. You can't then delegate that out necessarily to a special committee without, of course, council approval.
Sure.
Okay. But no, it does not have to be manned by anyone on council. It can be someone that is in the community that mans it. Now, if you remember, the park committee is different. That is a separate ordinance. It is not considered actually a standing committee of council. The separate ordinance, again, actually defines how many members, what their terms are, who's appointed, and one council member is definitely on the park committee.
what would be your suggestion, the best way to go?
Would be to be an ad hoc. Because I don't think we have the legislation ready to go to do a, similar to what we've done for the park committee, actually setting up terms, deciding exactly how many members. I mean, as you mentioned, you were here looking for feedback, you had heard that maybe there was no support. It sounds like that might not actually even be the case, right? So we wouldn't even know how many members.
Well, I guess the whole issue is if the committee that's formed for the trails and sidewalks or whatever, wants the support of village assets, the use of village hall, the opportunity to advertise in the newsletter, et cetera, they would appear to have to be an ad hoc committee.
They will have to be somehow approved by council.
Right.
So as you know, we allow HOAs to use village hall.
Right.
They are on the calendar when they use village hall.
Now, I know that initially when the mayor introduced the committee to council, basically his idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, was it was just going to be an informal group of citizens who were interested in it, who were going to investigate all various aspects, and then approach council or the mayor with their recommendations or findings of fact that they may have come up with. So I don't know if that charter has changed. I don't know what the intent fully is of the committee, and perhaps if the mayor can articulate what the desired end state is, that would help council to arrive at a decision here.
I've seen numerous ad hoc committees being formed in other jurisdictions or special committees being formed where they are literally tasked with research this, advise, and make a recommendation to council.
We did come up with a list of duties, if you want me to describe those.
You know,
It's up to you.
I'm not so much concerned about that. I'm concerned about, is this an informal, or is this going to be something that's going to become a sanctioned committee with resources available from the village? And quite frankly, I really don't have a dog in the fight whichever way. I guess the only thing I'm concerned about is what is the desired end state? What is the goal? What is the tasking of the council or the committee, whichever form it takes? So.
Yeah.
It sounds like an ad hoc would be the perfect fit for this group. I think what you're trying to achieve is important. It seems to be a groundswell of some citizens who think it's pretty important right now. So at the least, exploration of it would be fantastic. I think as an elected person, I want to hear more and have more people who are working more closely on this singular issue. I would appreciate it. So from my perspective, I think an ad hoc committee would be wonderful for this subject matter. I don't know if it has to be associated with a committee or not. I don't know.
As, just another technical question. Duration,
Right.
limited duration?
It can be, it does not have to be. So for instance, I've been in other communities where there was a citizens advisory committee to give a recommendation to the trustees about whether or not to go out for a levy in November. Clearly, they had to report that by a certain time, and once they did make that recommendation, they were done.
We did an ad hoc committee for the 100th celebration, and then once the 100th celebration was over, the committee just goes away.
What was the cemetery committee, Danielle?
That was an official committee.
That was official?
And that still exists.
No,
No, it's gone.
What are we, so that's with properties, we blended it with properties.
If you remember, there was at one point a board of cemetery trustees, if that's what you're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah,
and then there was board of trustees, and then we changed it to a committee, so it wouldn't be a board. And then once the cemetery was built with the new administration, we dissolved that committee, and then it just became part of properties.
That's okay.
So I think for me, I'd like to know, is there a sentence that is a stated goal? Like, what is your end? What's your hope? And I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, I may reference text because I don't have it memorized, but we did come up together with a list of duties, and that may help just to share that with you all so you can hear what we had in mind, if that's okay. So number one was developing a safe bicycle and pedestrian access plan. Number two was engaging and learning from the community about bicycle and pedestrian safety needs. Number three, making recommendations to the village council on the selection of bicycle and pedestrian projects to be submitted for state and federal funding opportunities. Number four, working with staff to promote bicycling and walking as safe and healthy modes of transportation, including safe routes to schools. And assisting staff, which is kind of vague, in the planning, operations, and maintenance of bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the village.
Right, I recall the mayor is a member of all standing committees. Would he also be a member of the ad hoc committee?
It's not a member.
I don't know that he's a member of all standing committees. I don't see that in actually the Ohio Revised Code.
I thought it was in our ordinances that because he's in on streets, he's in on finance, he's in on.
But he's not a voting member.
I don't think he's a
I mean,
member.
you don't know.
I think he just attends.
Right.
As ex officio, maybe a member, I don't know.
Okay. If I can ask the visitors, okay, given the set of duties that you've outlined, timeframe, what are you thinking?
Well, we're hoping to meet monthly, was
Okay.
the most recent plan. We're trying to organize the last Friday of the month. We would love to use this space and advertise, would be helpful, and so we can hear all sides of the equation. And then go from there. Really, I don't have an end point in mind. I think it kind of depends on how it evolves and what data is surfaced.
Okay, so we need a motion
Correct.
to create
Why
this?
don't you just slow down a second? I
Okay,
don't think we're ready for that yet. We got a meeting Thursday. Let me talk, figure out what
Okay,
we're gonna do here.
but I don't hear reluctance of council to form a committee if you have enough interest from the community to go forward. I mean, I think you'll get our support, and if the mayor wants to wait to see what the next meeting looks like, that's fine.
We've had 2 meetings, 6 people at each one. I want to see.
Okay,
As I said, we're meeting Thursday, we got an event on Friday. We can be back here we're back here in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But the issue that came up right away was we wanted something in the newsletter. And we were not, wanted e-blast, we were not allowed to do that because we were not an ad hoc committee.
Correct.
okay, so,
But we may be back here at the first meeting in October saying we want to be an ad hoc committee.
May I ask what you're looking for at the next meeting? Is there a certain number of people that you're hoping to attend or a certain subject you'd like us to discuss?
No, I think what frankly is,
Yeah.
we're there. I just want to make sure we're comfortable with, operating under the village's guidelines. I don't think we got an issue at all.
okay.
I don't like to spring things on council. I think I'd rather take my time.
Could I offer a suggestion to the group? If you had a ad hoc committee of, let's say, 7 people, mayor being one of them, as the ex officio from the village, is like a village rep of sorts, have 7 people look into this issue, and within a year's time, that sounds like a long time, but it's not. Within a year's time, if this committee is created, generated a 3 or 4 page report about safe routes to school, what your committee recommends the village do, how it's going to be financed, and what type of timeline would you envision for this?
Those are some pretty clear, those are clear tasks.
Using the year, we're paving Bell Road East in 25, as I recall, is that right?
Yep.
But Bell Road West is gonna eventually come up again. And the bike paths and the paving of the road is something that might work nicely together.
The one thing I would invite your attention to is, you know, in talking with Ruth, who has previously served on council, I think before many of us, maybe not you, but, or the mayor, but I know the issue has been looked into way back when, you know, if not at least the 90s, before the 90s. There is a raft of information that's available within the archives of the village that might help you as you go forward. Realize that the Ohio Revised Code has some pretty strict guidelines about paths and the width and the buffer zone of paths. Be advised that when you are talking about people's private property that these paths will go through, there will be some concerns about that. And in large extent, the way many of the laws are written now is that sidewalks and sidewalks especially, are basically funded from the property owner, and they're assessed accordingly. So just be advised as you go forward that there are going to be some big issues which might have some big impact on the community, because many people who don't have to pay for them support them, and many people who have to pay for them are not so excited about them.
Or too elderly or something like that.
Yeah. So, you know, there is a lot of stuff that's already previously been done, so you may not have to replow the same ground, but you can always contact Danielle, and maybe she could provide a path electronically as to how to access some
Of
of
32-year-old minutes. And that's, I sound jaded, and I am a little jaded. We worked really hard to try to get that bike path in 92, and at the final bell, it tanked.
Do you have a sense of, we've heard about that, some of us have discussed that on the committee. Do you have a sense of what was the obstacle there again?
They wanted it to go, and I know Danielle found that it was 3.1 miles, but my recollection, it crossed 306 before, and this was talked about before and then after making the turning lane. So you had 4 lanes coming together, enter new subdivisions and more traffic and so on and so forth. Chief, if you can weigh in here when I'm done, I'm happy with that. Many people were for it, young people were for it. I had kids at Gurney at the time. I personally, as somebody that used to run in a different body down Bell Road, I don't want to be on Bell Road. And so I don't know how you make that safe with the volume of traffic. And so I just have some real concerns. And is this, and here's a direct question, is this mostly it's for bike riders? Do I have that correctly?
Pedestrians,
Walking.
like anyone who's not in a car, scooters, or that.
Dennis covered some very salient points. How that gets financed and how it gets maintained is the biggest, the maintenance.
And you know, for the paths, as I recall from a previous discussion in council, you have, I think the path minimum has to be 11 foot wide. And then I think there has to be like 2 or 3 feet on either side of that, which is free from obstacles as well. So, you know, a big pushback from a property owner may be that if you're taking 14 or 15 feet out of their front yard to make a public path, they might have some concerns about that. So, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ruth, was the last measure brought on the ballot
Yes.
for approval?
And,
So,
and it got tanked. And I think it was kind of a close vote, but I can't remember, this is 32 years ago. I just remember being disappointed because my kids would have benefited from it. Now my old lady self would benefit from it if I walked on it, but that's only if it goes out to Paw Lake, which is remote. But I do see, I don't want to come across as negative, Nellie. Every single day, because my house borders Bell Road, bike riders up and down and lane hoggers, like they're supposed to be in single file. It's rare, unless a car comes by, and that's just not safe. So how you do that getting it done financially and making everybody at least moderately happy. This is tough, very tough.
Something else to remember, if you're talking about the bike path right next to Bell Road, on one side or maybe both sides, that may entail covering up the ditches and then piping them. So it's not just sidewalk
Maintenance.
expense, it's not just, making a path, but that's also a stormwater issue. Because the ditches carry more water and have better capacity than pipes. So if you cover the ditch, that's basically where the path is. And below it is the ditch that is no longer there. So every homeowner and every homeowner downstream is going to be impacted by that in some way. I'm not a negative individual on this. I think it's a great idea, but there are practicalities that have to be addressed if this is going to go forward. And we're dumping a lot of stuff on
We're in the very
this.
preliminary stages. I think the very first thing to look at is not grants to do a project, but grants for planning a project. I think we have members who are interested who are very savvy in researching public options and like looking at this funding. That's not because policy we aren't engineering and jump right into it, but we can look for funding for the planning and stuff to see what we can get.
To keep the minutes going carefully, can you give your name and address for the minutes?
Elizabeth Gross, 175 Sherwood.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, I think you'll be impressed with what has been done already. We'll be back on October the 14th. I'll see you Thursday morning and Friday morning. Okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the thoughts and discussion too. It's very helpful.
So as you walk out, I'm going to give you an assignment. Think how you cross 306, if at all. Nightmare for the cops, absolute nightmare.
Well, if you recall, in the planning stages of the new traffic light, we already have pre-planned for crosswalks. So the infrastructure is there.
Okay.
All we need to do is add the pedestrian pedestals, the push buttons, and the actual illuminated signs. So
Okay.
it would be an upgrade, but I don't think it would be an astronomical cost. So the infrastructure is there.
And then the second part is, so even given that, would traffic respect people crossing if we go that way? I know, but you lose a limb or a kid, horrible. The second thing is, 25 to 30 some years ago, South Russell opted to pay more to pave the shoulders. We have beautiful shoulders. And so that was what we did after the failure. And you're still very close to bikes on a very busy street. So just think about it.
All right, I want to wrap this up. Kelly's on her bike and it's getting dark.
Oh.
All right, thank you all. You're welcome to stay, but thank you.
Safe travels home.
Thank you.
All right, we're now at the mayor's report. The Chagrin Valley Dispatch, all 32 members, 31 of the 32 met last Wednesday. The vote was 21-9 to implement the new funding formula. For us, it's a increase of 48%. Our new bill will go from 59 to a little over 88,000. Any questions about that?
Is it a good time to start looking around for different dispatch and what that means?
I would say no, because frankly, I think voting against it, Chagrin Falls Village, Chagrin Falls Township, and South Russell. Voting for it, Hunting Valley, Bentonville, Moreland Hills. Those are the 6 that make up Chagrin Valley Fire Department. I seriously doubt, in my opinion, we're going to tell the people, and most of the people live on the west end of the village, oh no, you're going to get your ambulance and fire from somebody else. So I think we're going to go wherever Chagrin Falls goes. And I don't know that Chagrin Falls is going to go anywhere. We have a contract with Chagrin Valley Fire Department. That's an odd, they're an odd entity. The Chagrin Falls Village does not control them, but they do. I think we see what changes are going to be made now that this funding method is in, and we have plenty of time. On the other hand, if the safety committee wants to start approaching Bainbridge and Russell and talking to Geauga County, it's never too soon to get at it. But I don't think we're going to make any change, in my opinion. I think we will see how this goes, and I think you see some adjustments that will probably come down the pipe.
Mayor, one question. When you said we're going to see what changes are going to be made as a result of the increased funding, what changes do you anticipate?
Something will have to be done for Chagrin Falls Township. Their average call will cost them $417 every time somebody calls the fire. So that's just not possible to expect them to pick up that expense. And they had 58 calls last year, but when they're paying 1/32 of the administrative cost, it's like 20-some thousand. I think you're going to see that. That'll have to be done. I think you'll also see something with the channels. For example, we have a channel with basically our local people, but then on the fire, we lose Gates Mills and we pick up Solon and Glen Willow. So I think there's things that are going to be looked at, try to fine tune it.
So to change the equation, you're saying?
I think you'll see a little bit of that too. Yeah, I think when you looked at the people who voted against it, one of the Brooklyns, I'm not sure which one it was, and the three of us, and mostly small people. The big people were fine. Even some people had increases of $200,000 and they voted for it. So I think we just see how it goes now. Next questions on anything on Chagrin Valley Dispatch? Okay, last week we walked the park for our yearly walk with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Pete McDonald, a great student, and Martha Bistris from the park committee, and Tim Young and I walked it. Everything looked pretty good. We had as we were walking, long discussion about the burn and what we should and should not do. NOACA had a meeting last Thursday. Did anybody go to that or get involved with NOCCA? Okay. NOACA had their meeting on Friday. I met with a representative. Basically, with our $800,000 grant, we can do anything we want along Bell dealing with transportation. I took a map of the village and said, in my personal opinion, I want a path from here, meaning Gurney, down here to the park on the north side of the road. He said that's very feasible. He said you could we could do paths, something on the east side, going from Chillicothe to $800,000 and stop. But basically that's what we could do. Also, the feeling was from NOACA is come with good ideas. There's still plenty of money floating around. So that was
Does that 800K, does that go away at a certain point, Mayor?
I don't think so. But that,
You don't have to answer it tonight.
no, but I'm gonna have to find out.
It's a good question.
Yeah, good one,
If
Ruth.
it's use it or lose it within a year or two,
Yeah,
but this might be something for an ad hoc committee to consider.
for them, yes. Anything else on the,
Would the $800,000, would we be able to use it to provide the crosswalks at 306 in Bell?
I would think so.
Well, I mean, even if we don't do anything with the path at this point, whether it's a bike path or whatever, but if we spent at least some of the money to do the crosswalks now and take advantage of that, then that would be in place come if in the future a bike path or something like that would be made available, then the crosswalks would already be in place and be operational. And you wouldn't have to go and fight for money there. Just a thought.
It's a good one.
I'll give you just my vision very quickly. My vision for the path, as I said, is simply Gurney to the park. That would eat up more than $800,000 because we've got to cross the creek, Emerald Lakes Creek, and Eric had already looked at that. A bridge is costing some money. Tim Alder had looked into that. The bulkheads on the north side of the creek are not good. And the county was looking at rearranging that bridge anyway. So we could possibly have the county change that whole bridge around. In an ideal, perfect world, I would still like to get water up here. And maybe if you're doing a path, that's when you bring the water up to, from Laurel, say up to and behind the gas station. So those are just thoughts that I have and thoughts that we'll talk with these people. But I'll probably be back asking for an ad hoc committee on October 14th. Anything else on that one? Chagrin River Watershed Partners had their quarterly meeting. Everything is rolling along with them. David Trees planted the trees around the wetlands that they created. It still doesn't look good, but it'll be okay for
It'll look better next year.
Yeah, give it a couple years to grow in. I did some research on the POW MIA flag. We've been flying that flag off and on since the 1990s. Talked to some former people, former residents. We did talk to Mr. Howard the day before the flag went up. Walk to School. This is the first time they've ever had this at Gurney. This is these guys, the people you just saw organized. That'll be this Friday, walking from Chagrin Lakes Pavilion to Gurney School. This will be interesting because on the south side, there's maybe 4 feet, and then you got a guardrail. So that's going to be an interesting situation.
We did it last year with Chagrin Lakes community.
Chagrin Lakes did it? Okay.
Were there police there to,
Yeah, we escorted them.
Yeah, you're
feeling us there.
So you probably did like a barrier of adults or,
We walked with the kids, we escorted them with the police cars, and then we crossed them across the street, across Bell Road. We had the road shut down for a couple minutes.
I think these people that you see here are basically going to end up being like another safe routes. And you look at Chagrin, the bridge from the library, along the river, the intersections, that all came out of safe routes. Don't forget Donuts with Tim is Monday morning from 7 to 10, and the luncheon is at 11:30 on Monday. The high school kids, it's called Philanthropy Day. Basically, all the kids at the high school take the PSAT except for the seniors, and they needed something to do for the seniors, so they send them out into the community. We put a notice in the newsletter saying if you want yard work done, these kids will be coming on October the 9th. Newsletter, I think, hit the houses on Friday. We've had 2 people that are interested. On October the 2nd, next Wednesday, I believe it, the Cat's Den Garden Club will plant another 1,000 tomatoes. They're going to plant them on either side of the railing that we put up on the old cemetery. And Mr. Coatsworth, who lives next to the cemetery, is going to provide parking so that these people won't have to walk very far.
how nice.
Very nice, very generous of him. Okay. That's it for the mayor's report. Questions of the mayor?
That was a lot, Mayor.
Yeah. Fiscal officer, the floor is yours.
We're getting ready for the fall festival. Leslie placed the order today, and her and a member of the service department will pick up the food and those supplies on Wednesday. I forgot to do it previously, so I'm just doing it now. Sending out to all of the elected officials the fire and ambulance research that was done a few years ago from Russell Township and Chagrin Falls. So I just thought I would share what was done as pretty extensive research. We'll give you some insight to what would have to be done if we did it, or maybe after looking at it, you won't want to pursue. And I did, all the employees, except for one, has filled out their Form Fire for getting the health insurance shopped around for our renewal, which is December 1st.
I missed that. It's ready to go, or you wait?
Well, we're waiting on one employee. So I'm pushing, but, so I don't know what else I could do. But we're working on it, so when that gets done.
You tell me who it is and we'll take care of it.
No, we won't sit on, I'm not allowed to say that.
And that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you for everything you're doing for the Fall Festival, which is making me verklempt all week.
Do we,
so go ahead.
question, do we need to approve overtime for this weekend for employees, or is that after the fact? It's on a Sunday, yeah?
Danielle, another record income tax really doesn't mean anything, does it?
No, because we also got, so it used to be everybody paid their income taxes into CCA. Well, a few years back, now you can opt to pay into the state of Ohio. So we did get a thing. So people, you pay your estimated payments, and then when you do your taxes at the end of the year, if you overpaid, you get a refund. So we do have a $10,000 refund that we have to issue for somebody who filed with the state, because you don't get that many people that file with the state, but that's why it's always, I'm cautious about the income tax, because you
Is
never know.
CCA the old Rita?
So we have,
Rita.
they're like, so CCA is run through Cleveland, but they do other communities. Rita does other communities. They're not just based with one city. We've had CCA from the beginning, in 1972 when we started collecting income taxes. A few years back, I did do research with Rita. We get a lot more services with CCA. Like CCA, every couple of years I'll have them come out and they physically walk our business district and go to every business and make sure they're properly filed and paying taxes. If you wanted Rita to do that, you have to pay extra for that. Or if you have a delinquency thing, CCA, that's part of our agreement. Rita, everything was an extra. So by the time we compared the two, CCA was a much better.
So it was the village's option to pick one or the other?
It would be quite an ordeal to change. And we did research it within the last 10, 12 years about switching, but.
This might be a good time for me to bring this up. I received a phone call today from a business concern. They're quite disgruntled concerning the CCA. And I've approached Danielle with that. And she advised me to call that individual and to have the individual speak to Danielle. So that'll be tomorrow, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Questions of the fiscal officer? Finance committee, you're up.
Okay. Report was in your packet. The next meeting I have on my schedule is October 17th, I believe at 9 a.m. I noticed in the fiscal officer's packet, there was a credit card report. Do we need to approve that?
Yeah, knowledge receipt and review.
So, okay, so I'm confused. Do we?
Yes.
We do need a motion.
Yeah.
Thank you. To approve the credit card report of, it's like here, there it is, September 23rd, 2024, so moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion passes.
Thank you. Questions or?
I have nothing.
Yes. On the OPWC, the culvert, we say the target is July 1st, 2025 for project completion. Isn't that the target? They can start.
That's when they can
They can
start.
start, okay?
Yeah, we can award it.
You can award it, they can start, okay?
Yeah, so
Also down there, we had a question about the CBD and the channel cost. The second to the last paragraph in your report, the average channel cost from Chagrin Valley Dispatch is $392. We are grouped a little differently. So when we looked at if we are 6% of our channel, that didn't come out. 6% of 392 does not come out at 88, and that's correct because our channel costs are different. But that's why that was different. Any questions of the finance committee?
You know, speaking of the channel costs, and, you know, maybe you can help me out on this, Chief. I believe the number of people sharing a channel is based on the capacity of that channel for the traffic. The reason we're grouped with 6 or 8 others is because we're largely with smaller communities. There may be large communities like a Euclid or whatever that has their own channel, but that's because the volume of use on that particular channel is so much more greater.
That's right.
So it's not because of any efficiencies per se, it's just efficient use of channel availability.
Yeah, you're grouped with communities that won't overwhelm the channel. So we have a group of lower call volumes. They are stacked in order of call volume, but again, we are one of the lowest call volumes on that channel. So
And that's why there's so many of us
that's why
on
we
that
have
one
8
channel.
communities on one channel.
Does any community have more than one channel?
They would have a police and a fire channel. So yeah, technically 2, like a Euclid.
Yeah,
Euclid's got 4
channels.
channels.
Well, I would think, I mean, that does make sense. They have a dedicated channel, and because they have so many, they have more than one dedicated channel. Okay.
But given that dynamic, you would think that based on more channels, more personnel to man those channels, that their administrative costs would be larger. Not the case.
As it was,
I like your logic, however.
yeah, as it was explained to us, the administrative cost is for the director, the finance officer, for their financial people, and for their training officer. That was the administrative cost. The cost of the dispatchers is allocated based on the channel use. So that's kind of an operating cost as opposed to administrative costs. That's the way they presented it to us.
There's so many pieces and parts that go into this, and I'm just floating on a cloud, not getting it. I know we can do it piece by piece and understand it, but it's a lot.
You know, one thing that, you know, in the future that we can file away, Chris, is that, you know, as we negotiate the next round or whatever is, there are efficiencies that they're considering within their administrative staff. You know, it seems like they've added an assistant, a finance officer, another 1 or 2 positions. So it seems like their administrative staff is increasing, but, you know, given that it's relatively new, is there a good ROI on that investment?
Anything else from the finance committee? Solicitor, the floor is yours.
So I wanted to get back to what ad hoc means. So specifically, it's concerned with a particular end or purpose or need. It means for this or for this situation. One thing to remember too for the ad hoc committee, they will have to, if in fact they are formed, they will have to take minutes of their meetings.
Sunshine.
Correct, and we would have to sunshine. that.
Basically run them just like the park committee.
Or just like a properties committee or any, yes.
Okay.
Is there a reason we have the NOPEC sign?
Yes, because I meant to give it to Ruth for the fall
Okay.
festival on Sunday.
Okay, and then I wanted to go back to the food expenditure. I know it's everyone's favorite, but we do have an ordinance regarding whether and when we can and cannot use village funds for the expenditure of food. As you know, we have a complete list of basically the village-sponsored events, and then we have kind of a catch-all. And it explains Fall Festival, Trash Day, Veterans Day, Kids Fishing with a Cop, and maybe one other. But in any event, the retirement party for the street commissioner is obviously not one of those village-sponsored events. And either is the park committee appreciation luncheon. So we will need 2 motions to approve those expenditures of funds, and specifically to determine that it is necessary to further a public purpose and it's not arbitrary or unreasonable. Those are our ordinances, and that's from the state auditor, so keep that in mind. It's not from me.
We should do that tonight then.
Correct.
That goes by motion?
Yes, so I even have the language, and I don't know. But specifically, we're just looking for a motion to approve. Hold on one second. I had it written down. Basically, move to adopt council's determination that the expenditure of village funds for the food and drink for the September 30th retirement party luncheon for the street commissioner is necessary to further a public purpose and is not manifestly arbitrary or unreasonable. And then same thing with the park appreciation luncheon. We actually have to make a determination that it's, to further a public purpose and not manifestly arbitrary or unreasonable. Again, if you recall, this ordinance has been around for a bit, and we amended it in the last couple of years. But it is, again, a state auditor requirement.
The number of occasions has been growing.
I know,
Since
so
it
we
started.
need to think about that, correct?
So how about I make the motion that council approve the expenditures for both the Fall Festival and for the street commissioner retirement party with a specific finding that the expenditure of such funds is not manifestly arbitrary or unreasonable in these particular instances. So moved.
It serves the public purpose.
And it does indeed serve a public purpose.
Good job. And
Second.
And it's not the fall festival, it's the park committee appreciation luncheon for the fall
That
festival.
was gonna be my question.
We already have the fall festival, it's
That's on the
completely one of
list,
our
yeah.
village-sponsored events. This is for the appreciation luncheon to the park committee.
As amended.
Thank you.
It's been moved by Porter, seconded by
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now, we need something, anything else for,
I don't know, the donuts with Tim, is that part of, did we already approve that? I'm sorry, but I don't know if we have.
no, I don't think
Okay,
so.
we should make a
It's all
motion
just a
to-
part of the appreciation of Tim.
Oh, it is? It's part of the luncheon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, now that we think about
I
it.
thought the mayor was.
Since we're here.
Today.
Why don't we do a motion?
I move, do I have to go through all that?
I think it would be best.
Oh, dear Lord. I move that we approve the donuts with the retiring street commissioner. Do I have to add people?
No.
Donuts with people and coffee.
Mhm.
From 7 to 10 on September 30th, and that it serves an obvious public purpose and is not manifestly
Arbitrary.
arbitrary
More unreasonable.
or unreasonable. So moved.
Second.
Second,
Discussion.
discussion.
Is there a cap?
You could put a cap on it.
I mean, dollar amount.
Well, at the
Yeah.
last meeting, you guys.
I thought we
said
talked
$700.
earlier about, for the Tim event, $700 seems,
That's what you approved at the last.
so that still remains.
Did we need an extra $100, Mayor?
Yeah, we could. Right now, the bill looks like it's gonna be 37, 36. Yeah, say $50.
Not to exceed $50?
Yeah, get some leeway.
Amend
in
my
case somebody-
motion not to exceed
Wait,
$50.
no, we have to finish the first motion, because there's a motion for the donuts with Tim that our community. Do we want to vote on that first before you're amending?
I'd do it all in one.
We're doing the
You've
donuts.
already
with
said
Tim.
it, right? What was that? Sorry.
Are we doing the donuts with Tim one this time?
Yeah, we're doing donuts.
We already did the luncheon one, didn't we?
Correct, you just did the luncheon.
Now we're doing the donuts with Tim,
Correct.
so she's amending
Okay.
that for $50 as a cap.
So moved.
Second,
Dollar amount was at the last
discussion.
contract. It wasn't in this motion.
Was it 100?
It was $700 in full. That was at the last meeting. Did you give a dollar amount today? Just besides the
Not to
50?
exceed 50, right?
For the donuts.
We're gonna be cutting them in half.
Okay, are we ready? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Anything else, Solicitor?
You're covered.
We're good?
Nope, we're good, thanks.
Okay. Street Committee.
Street Committee, nothing surprising here. Two things that were in your packet. One, we need to ratify an invoice from Horizon Excavating for the stormwater work, management work they did in the backside of on Chillicothe Road. So I'd like to make a motion. Yep. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to ratify the invoice from Horizon Excavating for $16,825 for the storm water management trenching done on Chillicothe Road. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
And the second one, during our ordinances, we'll have, as you saw, the lowest bid for the Bell Road East culvert replacement came in at, make sure my notes are right, yep, $118,430 from CMG Contracting. And talk about that later, during ordinances. Our next meeting is October the 3rd at 7:30 a.m. in the Streets Commissioner's office. All are welcome. Councilman Porter, do you have anything to add?
Last meeting, last council meeting, we talked about a joint meeting with HR.
Yeah.
I noticed in the HR meeting minutes that the topic of a foreman and some kind of compensation for an acting foreman was at least discussed. And I'm wondering if we need the joint meeting with streets and HR to further discuss that.
Didn't we have something set?
I think it's 9 o'clock.
We were talking about on the 6th. Is the question whether it's still necessary or not?
I thought we were doing it on the 3rd at 9.
I'm sorry, the 3rd.
I don't have my
My
book
brain.
with me.
And the idea, everyone was gonna check their calendars and then we would talk about it tonight. But, I mean, does HR have a recommendation on the issue already or is the joint meeting with streets? a good idea?
Well, we can talk about an HR now. With the new regime coming in, we decided to let our new street commissioner look at what he's got.
Okay.
And there was a term we came up with. I didn't highlight my notes, so I apologize. There was a term, Chris Berger, what was it as opposed to foreman?
Probably crudely.
Crew leader.
Later.
So it was more of a to be determined.
So we
And
should
we-
have a meeting?
I think we should.
Yeah,
Okay. Are we good at October 3rd at 9? Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, that's better than 7:30.
Can we sunshine that, Daniel?
I think it already was, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mark?
I think that's it.
Okay, I have nothing else.
All right, questions of the street committee? Building committee, Chris.
Building committee, we met, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, last week, I don't even know at this point. We once again reviewed the legislation for the Park Pavilion rental. Everything was good after we reviewed it, and you saw it again in your council packet, and we're ready to move forward with the third reading and adopt it this evening. Other than that, our next meeting is October the 10th at 8 a.m. in the building department office. Subject to anything from Councilman Canton.
Nothing at all.
That concludes the report.
Questions of the building committee? Chief, you're up.
Thank you. One item, IT related, ever since the upgrade to ADP, Ruth Griswold has been locked out of the council chambers here and unable to stream to the TV monitors for planning and ZBA. I gave her this great cable to hook up to. This is my prop. However, I received a quote from the company that installed this equipment to upgrade us to allow her to stream to the TVs from her laptop instead of us plugging into the system. So I have that quote and just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I don't know if we want to discuss it in another committee, but it's about just under $1,600 to upgrade this system to allow her to stream.
Is that a wireless connection or
Yeah.
wireless?
So it'll be like another wireless connection that you can actually find on your laptop and cast to it. It'll cast over both monitors. What she had been doing in the past is picking one of the TVs, remotely casting, but when we did the upgrade and they locked the system down, we can no longer cast to the monitors. So that will help her or anybody else that has a laptop to be able to cast without being locked down.
So is that like broadcast?
Wirelessly casting. It's like a wireless radio,
It's
basically.
all different languages.
Casting. So that, I don't know where we want to discuss it, if you need me to get any additional information, I do have an official quote from them.
Chief, like, the CVD meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. I was able to put both up just by using my,
So you have an Apple device.
yes.
We have an Apple TV that is integrated into the system, but for casting, we can only cast to the individual TVs when it was working. But since we got locked out, we can't cast to that because they're on the wireless network now. So your Apple TV casts to the Apple TV device that's up in the wall here. So I know it's a little complicated.
It is.
I know I can make it work if you let me take care of it.
So then, do you need a motion to purchase that?
If you want to take it to another committee and discuss it further, or if you want to do it, the total is $1,536.98.
Well, this would be a benefit to ARB, BZA,
And planning?
anybody who meets here who does not have an Apple computer.
Right, because we can't leave this cable connected under the carpet here year round. It's a little hazardous, and I gotta plug into the system,
Yeah,
open up the cabinet, make wiring changes. It's gonna cause us to have issues with that eventually.
Whose budget is it coming out of?
Anything else?
Anything else? Remember, this is money. Oh, we have to get it out of you.
But I'm asking, for building, is there a budgetary item? Is it coming out of the building department?
Well, I would think
it's
it would come out of the general.
Because we took a software for building, which you can't use for anything but building related.
Can we get a motion, guys?
Well,
Okay.
good
You're playing
question.
fire.
Where's the money, what line item is it being ascribed to, I guess, or general area?
I believe we should have money in miscellaneous out there, so we can do it out of general.
And it comes out of IT or
Yeah, they
computer.
need it to function.
So,
Yep.
yeah, equipment. Okay, so it's for the village hall. So general, okay, so a motion to approve the expenditure by the fiscal officer, the mayor, and the police chief of $1,600 not to exceed for the wireless connection for laptop to the smart TVs in the village hall. So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, discussion. Chief, before we go on this, what you have done to improve ABR BZA Planning Commission, where they used to stand around for sometimes 5 or 6 people standing around,
Looking at
set of
paper.
blueprints, and they're pointing to this and that. It's unbelievable. And the people coming in here really appreciate it. They can see things, it's great.
Great.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. All set.
Anything else, Chief?
That's it.
Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. Safety will be meeting the morning of October 17th at 9 a.m.
Okay,
Councilman Galecki, and you have,
Nothing.
that's all.
all right, hang on, October 17th, I'm slow, you know that. All right, no questions of the Safety Committee? HR Committee, you're up, Ruth.
HR met on 9/13. Number of things we talked about. Already mentioned the foreman versus crew leader, new leader in streets, and not going to be solved immediately. Going to let our new employee look into that, and hopefully everything will work out. To be continued. Hold on, I'm reviewing. We talked about call-outs, safety, and that you cannot work being a police officer or a snowplow person for 24 hours straight. So there was general agreement that 16 hours is the top limit. And as a nurse, 16 hours would put me in the hospital. So I appreciate the time and the thought that went into that, and that we have enough staff that we can work with that. Let's see, we had discussion of the accident with the private car with, that could be called a one-time,
Ruth, wait, we'd like to do that in executive session
okay,
at the end of this meeting.
take it
please.
back.
Thank you.
SERB recommendations, which Danielle will be happy to say what SERB stands for.
State Employees I don't remember.
raises, whatever.
It's the state analysis of what, the
What it's
raises
gonna
and
cost for
for public
insurance, et cetera.
employees.
Okay, and so, we can't decide on raises for employees till we know what the costs are for, insurance, et cetera. And so as soon as Danielle gets that in, we'll discuss it and we'll go forward. That's HR, unless Chris Berger has some more he'd like to throw in.
Not at this time, thank you.
Ruth, do you want to do a motion to add to the luncheon, $100?
Oh, well, I thought we already did
Oh,
that.
we already did.
All good with all that?
$50.
$50.
For the donuts.
Do you need more than that?
700 for the event itself, right?
700 for the event and then 50 for the donuts is what was up.
Okay.
Full display.
We will discuss bullet point 2 later.
Property committee approved.
Properties. I hope everybody appreciates, as a side note, my 3 sets of minutes in a row. I know, everybody has 2 minutes. Properties, we met. Hang on, properties, parks. Properties, we met on 9/13 and reviewing. Fall Festival. I'm tired of the Fall Festival already. However, our town seems to love it. Our village seems to love it. I have, and thank you, Danielle, for putting that e-blast to ask for help, because Martha has secured 4 high school students that can help count at the bouncy houses, and I've had 6 adults volunteer to help to count, to do whatever we need.
And one other student.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 student closely related to,
Little nepotism.
But is he willing?
Doesn't
he's
matter.
gonna, his dad's gonna make sure he's willing. So make that 5 and 5. Okay, good. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and I am greatly disappointed that we will not be having the hay rides, but I want to say a public shout out to Ted Cruzy for all that he's done over roughly the past 15 years to make our fall festival just something that people look forward to. The setup time, the fuel cost, the tractor use, the hay wagons, etc. Ted, we thank you. Let's see, we have, Tim Young has mentioned that there are parts of his building that he feels need to be replaced. And so I'm sure we're gonna look at that and see if they need to be replaced or if they can be fixed or what needs to be done. I would like Bill to walk in on that with me. Jerry, did you want to add something to that part?
Yes, I just wanted to second what you just said. I want to thank Ted Cruzy and his entire family for all they have done. And I'm looking forward to Ted's continued service on our Parks Committee.
Ted has done great contributions.
Just to clarify, Ted, Chagrin Pet and Garden will provide a big tent and their cider press.
Is he going to run the cider press?
Yeah, he'll run the cider press, but he's using
That's great.
his people.
Great.
Previously, he would let somebody come up and press it. We're not doing that.
His arm's going to be tired. The other thing is, and I don't know if Danielle has any more information on this, did we hear back from the recorder and the auditor about the combo of the property so that we pay less taxes? The former-
It's at the state now. They're reviewing it. They have everything and I haven't heard back.
So do all things like that go through the state, or is it because we're?
It goes to the county first, they have to approve it, and then it goes to the state and they have final approval.
This is for the tax exemption part, not
Right.
the consolidated.
No, we're not consolidating it yet. It's just to make it tax exempt. That's all we're
Because
doing.
there's no buildings on
And we own it. We own it.
We don't need this for a public purpose, right?
Right.
it. Okay. All right,
And Ruth, that is the State Employees Relations Board.
thank you. Thank you.
Good grab.
Okay.
Any questions of the property or parks? Did you do them both together, basically?
No, that was just parks, but I'm sorry, that was properties. I think I did.
Okay.
But there are a few more things, so let me just look at it.
Okay.
Mr. Howard did come to our park meeting the other day, and he discussed his POA flag, which I'm all for. Judy Harvey attended, and she brought Kelly Jarzem back, who has Jars Creek Farm, and would like to add to the festival her own tent, and it's a butterfly. They do a monarch festival of their own at their own property, and she'd like to bring that. So I'll need to talk to Bridie about that and ask about insurance, etc. But it sounded very positive and not a whole lot of ways you could get hurt. In fact, no ways you could get hurt. Tim Young was to put up the Fall Festival banners today. Does anybody know if he did? I didn't make it down that way.
I didn't notice.
I didn't notice it.
I know it wasn't up like this past weekend.
No, he said he'd do it Monday. So I didn't drive
Maybe
by.
it's done.
Yeah, I didn't drive by, so I can't answer that. Mayor, I need to know where those trifolds are that we had for the
Mhm.
100th.
Mhm.
And if you can refresh me, I'll get them and I'll be happy
I
to
got them
take.
laid out already.
Okay. We want to do a big thank you to Libby Starkey, who was Libby Pike Starkey. She has set up almost all the people and made the calls and gotten the contracts and insurance and whatever Danielle didn't do, Libby was on it. She is a great member of this park, and I'm just happy to have her. We have the people, and we already thanked Ted, and last, fingers are crossed for 0 rain on 9/29/24. Signed Kavanaugh, that's it. Jerry?
Questions of the park for the property committee? The Public Utilities Committee.
Okay, I apologize, my minutes were late, but they were here, and so you have them to look at. Next meeting is scheduled for October 18th at 8:30 a.m. Subject to council reporters' comments.
Just one, I got a call from Dave Hunter, who is the project manager for Yellow Light dealing with the solar panels. And he indicated he would be sending either me, the mayor, or Danielle, he wasn't quite sure, the connection agreement that has to be signed for the purposes of CEI coming out to change the meter. And it is significant because once the meter is changed, the solar panels are online. So my goal here, maybe our goal should be to have the electrical upgrade done before CEI switches the meter. And I haven't heard necessarily about the upgrade, chief.
Yeah, we just got the signed agreement today. It's sitting in your mailbox. I just brought it over. So we will get that scheduled soon.
But that's for the drone, that's for the new property?
No, that's just for the upgrade, the service,
Okay.
the 200 amp service to the police.
This is exciting. I think it's exciting.
It's gonna take CEI a couple weeks to get around to the meter change out, chief. So it would be ideal if the upgrade was done and then CEI pops along at their good time, changes out the meters, and then we'll see how the solar panels do. And for that purpose, Danielle, it'd be nice to know September electric bill as a baseline, and then going forward, if there's any decline of any note, to see if the solar panels live up to expectations.
Okay.
That's all, Chris. Thank you.
Questions of the Public Utilities Committee?
Lot of work done, guys. Great work.
Right, ordinance resolutions, Chris Bell, are both yours.
Okay. Third reading of an ordinance amending chapter 646, parts of the Village of South Russell codified ordinances. Motion to adopt?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, Chris, I do have one question about the wording.
Sure.
And it's in reservations to use the park pavilion on the second page, para C. And it talks about the mayor who may consult with the village police chief and/or the village street commissioner before making a decision. May indicates he can or he doesn't have to. Shall indicates that he will do that. My question is this, if this is tacitly what's desired, that's fine, but it kind of gives the mayor total control to make a decision without necessarily conferring with police or others about potential impacts. So I don't know if that's what we want, but may infers or illustrates that it's entirely the mayor's decision. It doesn't have to consult with anybody.
Do you have any, Solicitor, do you have any perspective from the legal side?
I just have one comment. I think that with the changing, the reason that might be in there is with the changing mayor, tell me if I'm wrong, it restricted the usage and it made it more specific as to what we were doing with the park. Wouldn't that be correct?
It did a couple things. One is it eliminated letting council have to deal with what I call the petty stuff. Somebody's having a birthday party with 15 kids.
Yeah, mhm.
You've got to send that out, approve, and get your approval. It's probably a good idea on that. If you look at the second page where Dennis mentioned C, line 4, it says to the mayor. Why don't you say shall instead of may consult?
Well, we may not need to talk to the police chief or the street commissioner on a particular reservation there.
Yeah.
So if needed, you would talk to the chief or the street commissioner or both, depending on the event. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. If it's a birthday party with 10 kids in the bouncy house.
Let me try it out here. This clause only applies if one of the 6 conditions under B is checked in the application.
You know, and that brings up an interesting point. An excellent illustration of how this was almost abrogated was the mayor approached council to say, I have a request for a use of 50 people or whatever to use the pavilion, but it was during hours of park closure.
So to that point, I know you're saying that it does still have here the rules and regulations, the park hours.
I understand,
Okay.
but nevertheless, that happened, you know, and, you know, I just don't think it's necessarily a good idea sometimes to cut the police department out of the picture with respect to large parties of park usage. So,
Well, so if any of those 6 conditions apply, then the suggestion is that the mayor shall consult with the police chief or the street commissioner.
I think it's always a good idea, you know,
Okay, if-
unless we want the mayor to just have the
Well,
entire
I don't
vote.
have any problem with that, I just wanted to point out where this was coming from, so.
As long as it's a conscious decision, I'm okay. But I don't want the misuse of a word with a different intent that gives you an entirely different flavor of the ordinance.
Okay, so if we amend, solicitor, if we amend section C, for purposes of readings, do we now have to start all over, or are we okay to just amend it at this point?
You could just.
So the amendment is for the 4th line in section C, to read, to the mayor, comma, who shall consult with the village police chief and/or village street commissioner, et cetera, et cetera.
Just to clarify, that means the mayor every time has to ask when there's a bouncy house. He has to consult with them.
Right.
Okay.
And keep in mind, though, that the mayor's decision is still within his discretion. So even though you're now mandating that he consult with the street commissioner
Sure, yeah.
or the police chief, it's still his decision.
I just hate,
It's the atypical requests that come to council at a shall. I don't know if you saw that, because that was intentional.
Because I'm concerned that, say for instance, we have a large party using the park, and the police department is cut out of it. You know, I understand, you know, street commissioner are not, you know, really bent over bad about that because, you know, quite frankly, okay, so he might have to change out the garbage cans or whatever. But I'm just concerned about police and park usage, you know, and if it's not an issue, don't change it.
Well, I think if we have an issue, the mayor probably wants the police to know about it. And there would be communication. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I suggest that you leave it as is, as Chris said. They don't want to be bothered if it's a bouncy house and 10 kids.
Yeah, I would leave it permissive rather than mandatory.
Chief, you got any thoughts?
Nope.
Okay. If the chief's okay with it, you know, if the chief's okay with it the way it is, I'm okay. I mean, my big issue is cutting the police department out.
You know, I'll add that when Ruth Griswold enters these into the system, we are both sharing a document where we see the reservation. So the police department is cognizant of those events that are occurring. So we do have a layer in place so that we do get some sort of a notification.
So you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether the mayor
One
calls.
of our officers monitors that, that particular document.
If I may comment off of what Councilman Galecki mentioned, we do have the possibility of an event at the park after dark.
No.
That's,
As I understand it, well, Mayor, do you want to, I don't want to speak for you.
Sure. The request came in last week to use the park after, 9:30 at dark. And I sent that out to council to say, do you approve of this? Two things. It's going to be over 50 and it would be after dark. In the meantime, they found a different location that was not necessary. But please know, Section D, any reservation form that is not typical or includes requests not listed. I mean, having a party after dark, that's a big deal. And that's why I sent it out to you ahead of time,
That
saying
would be atypical.
that would be atypical, and that's why you were called right away.
Well,
or-
but Mayor, that wasn't, remember, this is not the ordinance that's in place right now. The ordinance that's in place right now is if you have groups of 50 or over,
Mhm.
right, you are to notify council, there's a certain time for objection.
Yes, yes.
With this in place, keep in mind, though, again, you cannot, one of you or a majority of it, you cannot abrogate the park rules. So that absolutely has to come to council to
Yes.
suspend the rule.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so keep in mind, you went, truly, probably your request, maybe you did include the fact that it was, after hours, and that's why you were seeking, but truly, you were bound to come to council because of the 50 people or more.
Yeah.
Okay, understand, so,
We would have been here Monday night passing a resolution if they pursued it.
Well, just be advised also, there was no formal request put through the building department for the park pavilion usage. It was a verbal request to the mayor for the after-hours party. So,
As soon as I got it, I'll let you know, because this was a biggie.
And we do get requests, just so you know, we do get requests from a lot of the sports teams wanting to do nighttime events. And usually we just say, park closes at dusk, so it's a no.
Right.
So
We have allowed the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts to park or to camp overnight.
that was one of the first years we opened, yeah. But that was all of council had to weigh in and waive that rule.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Which, can I ask which version?
The
To
original.
clarify, because you did both, so.
if it's the original version, I'm okay.
The original, okay,
It's fine.
thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion, the ordinance passes. Chris, it's still, you got the
Do we have
floor.
to do this by roll call?
Yeah, it's an ordinance.
it is an
Oh,
ordinance.
sorry.
Yeah.
So Porter,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Canton,
aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Galicki.
Ordinance passes. All right, Chris.
Okay, introduce and consider for adoption an ordinance awarding the bid for the Bell Road East Culvert Replacement Project to CMG Contracting LLC in the amount of $118,430, subject to an acceptable contract between CMG Contracting LLC and the Village of South Russell, declaring an emergency, moved away further readings.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Porter,
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
Berger,
Aye.
Canton,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Gallicki.
Move to
Move
adopt.
to adopt, sorry about that.
Second.
Porter,
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
Berger,
Aye.
Canton,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Gallicki.
Ordinance passes. We are at the bills list.
Motion to ratify the bills list of September 13th, 2024 in the amount of $131,350.79. So moved.
Second.
Second, discussion. Chris, I got a couple questions. Maybe it's, chief, or anybody. We had to buy the chief a new computer. All those computers that we turned in to the,
We didn't turn them in, they're gonna go on gov deals, we're just putting together the paperwork.
they couldn't, it's,
They don't meet
they don't.
the requirements of the county.
Okay, Chris, hang on, I have one more. No, we're good, sorry. That's been moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, we are at new other.
Well, before I go through the roll, I just want to let you know, with the last newsletter went out, people have received it by now. We are getting calls, more people signing up for the e-blast, and we have signs for the fall festival for that. And Leslie's, she was the one who sent that e-blast out for the volunteers. We're trying to have more of a presence on Facebook and all that, so I think that's going well. And we did get a call today from somebody, how do they sign up? So they're reading it and they understand. So I think we got the word out there that like the newsletter's done. So for new other, Porter.
None.
Well,
This question, I don't fully understand, why do we continue to table this Power of a Clean Future resolution?
Oh, because I haven't met with the Public Utilities, last week, Public Utilities Committee went too long.
Oh, okay.
I met with them in the meantime, and I'm going to meet with the Public Utilities Commission, tell them why I think it's good, and hopefully we'll get motion to join.
Recommendation. Okay. Thank you. Nothing else.
Berger,
None.
Canton,
Yes, thank you. I'd like to congratulate Chagrin Falls Middle School, the students, the teachers, staff, the administration. They were named this afternoon by the Department of Education, being one of only 356 schools throughout the United States, named the National Blue Ribbon School for 2024.
Middle school?
Middle school is the one that's up by the high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
You
fantastic.
still have to say Sands or Philomathian if you want me on board.
It's been a while.
That's it.
I don't change.
okay, and Kavanaugh, new other?
Yes, just briefly. I didn't give you my upcoming committee meetings for HR Properties and Parks for one reason. David Kavanaugh is going to come home, and I wanted to not have him during that time. So I promise I'll do that sometime later this week for what our next meeting dates are, because they're going to change. One other comment. When we're talking about 6-8 people looking at blueprints, and now we can look at screens. I was a blueprint reader, and I appreciate the screens. In this 911 business, I hearken back to the many times kids needed stitches, my dad passed away, and you called an ambulance. You didn't have a 911. I know it's expensive, but gosh, do I appreciate 911, and these chinks will get worked out, I'm sure.
That's all I have. Gallicki,
Nothing.
that's everybody.
Berger.
Move to go into executive session for the discussion of financial benefits for a public employee, inviting counsel, with the exception of Councilman Gallicki, the solicitor, the fiscal officer, and the mayor. So moved.
Second, roll call.
Porter,
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
Berger,
Aye.
Canton,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Gallicki.
Recuse.
All right, we'll go into executive session in 1 minute. 8:27.